Hi, Tony Bradshaw with AddSomeToYourIncome.com here to talk about what else can you sell. So you probably already watched the first one, what can I sell? Now this is what else can I sell to make extra money. I'm actually going to talk more about the art and craft of sailing and a little bit of information that I've gathered from books about how to frame the sail, and then wrap up with a couple of stories of the people who actually made sails and how they kind of create that success. So let's dive in. So first of all, we are looking at what else. This is a number 2 video. It's kind of I'm bringing this back again and more to say about this. You might want to take a moment and see the first one. You don't have to. It's your choice. If you landed here though, let's continue forward. So my teenage daughter was trying to convince the 5-year-old to watch a certain movie. She wanted to watch Mirror Mirror, and it was girls' movie night, so it was like they were going to be able to have their movie. I don't remember what the boys were doing this night. I think we were probably just going to play video games, and the girls are trying to figure out what movie they're going to watch. So she, in her logic, is just saying it's better than the one that you want to watch, because that's how she's thinking of it as a 13-year-old. But the 5-year-old is there in tears that, what she wants is being judged as not as good, right? So then, of course, mom steps in and she's like, okay, let's do a better job of selling her. And so mom turns to the child and shows her the cover and starts to explain. You see, there's this guy and he acts like a doggy. He pretends to be a dog and he's so funny, and he's put under this spell by the lady, and he pretends to be a dog, and this lady is actually the evil stepmother. And in one scene, Snow White finds all the dwarfs sleeping, and pretty soon the tears are gone, and the movie is playing just moments later, because mom was able to do a better job of selling it to a 5-year-old, creating for her something to look forward to that she would be interested in. So as you go to sell, make sure you're going to frame what you want to sell in a way that the people who need to be sold are going to want to hear it. Moving into this, I like to always say that teaching is selling. I like to see myself as a salesman. I have something to provide, knowledge. I have a way for you to prove to me you've gained this knowledge, which kind of gets a little complicated with the whole testing thing. But really, teaching is selling. If I'm doing this right, I am selling. Also, some of the best money is made from selling knowledge that you have. You're just finding ways to package it so that others will have it. As I look at a friend of mine who was in photography and his success, I am impressed with that. And let me just tell you a little bit about my friend. So he was in photography and he decided to start teaching classes on photography, and he was literally in class, but he got tired of always explaining the basics. He wanted to move beyond the basics. So he decided he would create videos to teach the basics, and if someone came up with a question, he would just say, hey, just go right back over here. All right, here are all these videos. Next thing he started to do was to put them on a blog. So he started this blog where he was just talking about not just those videos, but he started talking about the places he was visiting. I have a picture here of mountains because one of the places we discussed that he'd visited was the Smoky Mountains. So he creates this blog where he's just like, this is the place I'm going, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be there at sunrise, which means I'm going to need to get up at this time, travel this time, and then get there and get set up, and then I'm going to be there when the sun gets up, which is at this time, and I'm going to take a picture on the top of the Smoky Mountains at sunrise, right? And he starts talking to people who have similar interests. They begin traveling together. He starts interviewing some of them, starts really doing podcasting as well. Well, not very much longer, he starts to put together a class for these people who are like-minded and interested in what he's interested in. And he just kind of built a class while he was going. I mean, people had already paid and he hadn't even finished building the classes. He's building these classes, he's selling the recordings to these classes. And at this point in time, he calls himself a professional blogger, but really it's that he's selling. He's selling information about photography. All of this reminds me, for some reason, of the movie Upside. And in the movie Upside, the person who's trying to get himself out of the poverty he's living in has the person that he's serving pull a kind of fast one on a rich neighbor. So he's serving in a penthouse to this neighbor who's really rich, a very real person. Both of them very real, very touching story for me. At any rate, the $50,000 painting, it was just his random painting he'd made. After he gets the $50,000, this person's like, maybe that's the way I'll make lots of money. And the rich person who sold it, it was like, you need to do you. To which he then designs a better wheelchair because he was helping someone who was rich who was in a wheelchair. I'm giving maybe too much of this story away. If you haven't seen the movie yet, Upside, go check it out. But what always kind of got me is when something that's really not very valuable gets sold at a high return. And it's this art of being able to get it there. So let me talk about a couple of those things. One is crack the code. So I was reading one of these books, and it was talking about how someone put together a book that he thought would just sell, and he called it Compact Classics. But he only sold a few copies. Well, with some research and trial and error, he only changed one major thing, and that was the title and a new cover. Like, he just changed the cover of the book, and he changed the title, and he calls it The Great American Bathroom Book, Perfect Reading for the Little Room. It sold millions because he cracked the code of what the audience wanted to read. This is how you become successful at what you're doing. You want to be able to get what you've got to sell, and maybe just put a new front on it, put a new title, put a new subtitle, put a new cover on it. Well, for example, someone was trying to sell in the newspaper. This was something I read, and it was a long time ago, but had an ad in the newspaper saying, hey, you can make an extra $50,000 by next Christmas. Well, it brought in very few sales. So the next time he changed it to 20,000 in the ad. What was the difference? Nothing. But the people who were reading that felt it was believable to make extra $20,000 on the side. And all of a sudden he had a whole bunch of sales of the exact same product. So the trick is to find what is this irresistible bait for your fish, and make sure you put that out there, and that they will then buy what it is you're selling. Like with my 5-year-old, we had to crack that code. What is she interested in? She's interested in a grown-up man acting like a doggy, and that's what can sell her on watching that movie. There's a book out there called Framing the Sell, and I'm just going to recommend it at this point. I'm not going to share what they say. If you're wanting to sell something, you should learn about the way to frame it. So just like in a picture frame, the way that it looks, I'm currently watching this How to Appreciate Art lecture series from the Great Courses, which is just amazing stuff. Anything by the Great Courses is great. And she talked about how the frame itself guides you in the way you look at it. In fact, some pictures are framed with each other, and they go as a set. It's not one picture, it's a set of pictures. Other pictures have no frames whatsoever and are standing all by themselves on the wall, and it all just kind of changes the experience. So this book, it talks about 5 different ways to frame your sell. It's in a book called To Sell is Human. To Sell is Human. That's the name of the book. The book is not called Framing the Sell, but it has the 5 ways to frame your sell. So that's why I have what I hear, so you have that visual to remember. To Sell is Human goes into those 5 frames. I recommend that book, and I want to get to my example of giving an experience for the sell. And this comes from a friend of mine, Dwayne, who talked about a teacher friend of his who went into people's homes First, he was at the grocery store and he's playing the organ. And this was back in like the 1960s or something, when organs were just really becoming available to be in the home. People would walk up, and if they showed interest and had kids, he would say, I will put this in your house for free, and I will come to your house and give free lessons for, I think it was a month or something like that, once a week. So they agree, like, it's just a sample, we'll try this out. He'd get the organ in the house, and what he would do is he would purposely show up at dinner time. And they're having dinner. He's like, you know what? Let's let you guys finish your dinner. I've already eaten. I'm fine. You finish your dinner, and I'll just play a little bit on the organ. So he would play the organ, bringing music into the house. Then the child would come over, and he'd give a little lesson, and then he'd come back next week. That experience of having the music of the organ, a professional player, changed how they viewed the organ in their house, and sold lots of those organs by doing that process. May you not just focus on what to sell, but the whole framing of the sell. Make sure that you're doing the right market and that you're getting it to those people in a way that will help them to want it. Find that irresistible bait for your fish. And I look forward to seeing you on the other side.